Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach. So I said I was going to not do a video about Ed Piskor until after the funeral. His funeral was on Thursday night. I recorded a video later that night, but it was just a bunch of cursing. So I was like, I want to talk about this in a more intelligent way, in a more informative way, and in a way that can prevent things like this in the future. I've been predicting a suicide for years. Somebody showed me a blog post from Brian Wood in 2015. He predicted the same thing. And the next suicide will probably be a murder suicide, the way they drive these people to utter hopelessness. Before I start, First Kill graphic novel link is in the description. Here's my cascade chart, as I say. For some reason, I put conspiracy instead of contingency. Anyway, I haven't been doing very well for the last few weeks. I went out of town, and then this whole Ed Piskor thing, his initial cancellation, his murder about a week later, and then dealing with the aftermath and just tracking that. But I do need to get back into being much more productive like I was since the beginning of the year. So anyway, Greg Smallwood, I think 2 days after Ed was killed, said, "I didn't know Ed Piskor, but I wish I had. Cartoonist kayfabe kept me going when I was ready to quit. He and Jim gave so much of themselves to comics, and we repaid them with cruelty. Wish I had spoken up, even if it's vanity to think I could have made a difference. I'm sorry, Ed, RIP." So I'm going to do not just this video, but several videos. I have 4 just right now planned. This one about the just evil way they forced Jim Rugg to condemn him, which is a way to isolate him and increase the likelihood of suicide. The other one is about how they started, when they kind of realized that the allegations that they were accusing him of weren't enough to warrant the death sentence they gave him, they started just literally just throwing random stuff at him, accusing him of having a sock puppet. And then the fourth one, probably the most tragic, is that literally the day he was murdered, my planned video was about how things were getting better. That the old tricks that the cancel pigs, who I now call the cancel killers, that their old tricks weren't really working. I was tracking specifically the cartoonist kayfaber, not officially connected, Reddit, and you would think like, oh, they were just always on his side. No, initially it was very much against him, but then people started asking questions. They started asking for context, and they started noticing the gleefulness of his murderers, even before they killed him. And people were just kind of pointing out how like how inappropriate it is. Like, something supposedly horrible happened, right? So why are you happy? And it turns out they just target people for any reason, and they just watch and watch and watch and wait for a moment, and then they strike. The goal of these cancel killers has been to murder you with their own hand. They tried with me, they tried with Ethan, they tried with dozens of other people. They were successful with Ed. The problem, and they're very, very angry right now, is that Ed ruined what they thought was a flawless victory. He identified his death as a murder, and then he named his murderers. What he was supposed to do was just kill himself, leave no note, or have a note that says, "Oh, I'm just so sorry," just very blank. And in one of these videos, I'll go through his suicide note. But no, he identified them as murderers. They are being treated as murderers. They are being called murderers, rightfully so, I believe, and they are pissed. So they've kind of changed their tactics. And now what they're saying is like, oh, he didn't want to do the work. There was a path for atonement and forgiveness, and he was just too much of a coward, and he took the coward's way out. Yes, they actually say stuff like that exactly. So, and then 2 days later, Greg gave a series of tweets, and he said, regarding Ed Piskor, I've had some time to think about this, and my stance is this. I'm tired of the mean and nasty holding a monopoly on boldness. If you had a hand in the bullying of Ed Piskor and are unrepentant, I will not work with you or associate with you, and I will actively discourage others from doing so. I believe strongly in forgiveness, so I'm satisfied with a simple public apology. Not, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm sorry I had a hand in it. This industry likes to hold people accountable, but we're never clear on terms of atonement. Those are my personal terms. He got a lot of heat from it, but I had some people send me screenshots because I can't see entire threads. And it was like just a bunch of like nobodies. Like literally I hadn't heard of barely anyone. I think this is the only guy I'd even heard of. And so he says, Ed had a chance to apologize and admit mistake and find atonement. He did not do that. There was a path for, quote, redemption in some form. So Greg says, I'm done pretending that an apology or atonement gets you anywhere with these people. Tell me, Liam, did an apology change Warren Ellis's circumstances? How about Jason Latour's? Cameron Stewart, Brian Wood? There is no path, and you know it. So he responds, I believe, to Liam, your solution seems to be eternal banishment. Ed Piskor knew that because he had 10 years of history to look at as evidence. So, since I don't have a Twitter account, I don't have a Blue Sky account, most of my knowledge of this is just people sending me links or sending me screenshots. But the people who Ed Piskor named, it's rough, man. It's like I had to limit myself. I mean, these people are sociopaths. Now, I knew that, but to have like just so much evidence of it. Ramon Villalobos did this Eddie Haskell thing where he's like, oh, good golly gosh, that's unfortunate. Thoughts and prayers for his family. I was just trying to give him a chance to be a better man. Alex DeCampi and Daryl Ayo, they started playing this goo goo gaga thing where they were acting like only their behavior from the cancellation to the suicide was what he was talking about. No, just as Greg says, Ed Piskor, he gave his entire heart to comics. Terrible idea. You don't give your entire heart to anything. Not a hobby, not a job, not a person in a relationship, not a country, not a sports team, nothing. If you put everything, all of your heart into something, it's a lot easier to do what these people did, which was kill him. You basically set up a situation where he is, as he said in his suicide note, kicked out of the tribe. I have a bachelor's degree in history, and it was always so crazy to me that, like, especially like during the Roman Empire, people would be punished with exile. And I never thought it was that bad because the alternative was like death or being made a slave. So I would always like think like if I was back in those days, I would have my fingers crossed. I'd be like, exile, exile, exile. Come on, exile. And then they would say exile. I'd be like, yes. Because a lot of times they would allow you to take your family and some of your belongings. Sometimes it was literally like just get out. But people hated exile. Exile was worse than death. Because if you stayed in the country and you weren't executed, maybe they just took your lands or took your title, there was some path back. Exile was like, you're done. So, Greg very wisely pointed out that Ed Piskor was not as these sociopaths, Alex DeCampi and Daryl Ayo. He was not like, Alex DeCampi made a Homer Simpson gif about the situation. Time to kill myself. No, he said, I know this industry. I know the bad guys, the villains. Alex DeCampi will never give me peace for the rest of my life. If I lay low, if I apologize, which he actually did. He apologized to Molly, the younger one. There was two Mollys. I don't know how he knows two Mollys. It's got to be an East Coast thing. That's not a common name in the Midwest. But he did apologize, unlike what that Liam McGuire says. But there was no path back. Nothing. No matter what he did, they were always going to bring the same allegations and accusations up, even if he followed all of their rules. Because Warren Ellis tried. Do you remember when he was accused of engaging in hypnotism as well as juggling multiple targets and abrupt termination of relationship without communication? Like, which one is it? Did you have too much of him or not enough? This is from the So Many of Us, in which like 60, apparently he got around during his heyday, 60 bitter ex-groupies decided to band together to, I don't know what, like they have this update. They gave updates for 3 years. And plot twist, it wasn't enough. He attempted to appease these psychopaths for 3 years, and ultimately, it wasn't enough. He didn't do the work. Ed Piskor is well aware of this. There is no ability to appease. There is no atonement. There is no forgiveness. They're going to bleed you until you die and then mock you at your funeral, also before and after. So the last update from January of last year, when we published this website in June 2020, we did so with the following intentions. Number one, protect others by stopping Warren Ellis from continuing the pattern of behaviors we describe. Warren, stop that hypnotism. Number two, provide a place for targets of Warren Ellis. Wait. One of your accusations was him ending relationships. So were you targets, or were you lovers, or were you stalkers, or you were groupies? You were all groupies. Provide a place for targets of Warren Ellis. I guess a lawyer said like victims is actionable, so it's like just say targets. To support each other while we process what happened to us. Number three, make it easier for people to recognize this type of abuse and encourage the dismantling of systems that allow it to thrive. I need to reiterate that So Many of Us was just a bunch of groupies who were adults, who were sober, and who met up with him to have sex in hotel rooms. His whole career was destroyed over consensual sex with sober adults who in many cases made travel plans to meet him at the appointed time and place. Government name getting some. So then they said, we also said we were open to mediated transformative justice. That's what they call extortion these days. They don't call it extortion. They call it mediated transformative justice with Warren Ellis, and listed 4 actions we would like to see from him as part of that process. 1, acknowledge his behavior in its entirety. Number 2, acknowledge his pattern of harmful conduct. Number 3, acknowledge that he has callously hurt people. Number 4, contribute to transformative work to dismantle the systems which allow this to go on. That means give them money and find them jobs. Yeah, some aging alt girl who slept with him so he would show her power pack pitch to Marvel. And he didn't do it. Well, he needs to do it now. Just go there on the pitch and change the date of the pitch from 2004 to 2024, apparently. We saw valuable progress on all three of our intentions, but to the best of our knowledge, Warren Ellis took none of the steps we hoped he would. A mediated accountability process with Warren Ellis is not possible at present, and we do not anticipate our involvement in any progress he might make in the future. Well, the previous updates were about communications between the two and working on something. There was nothing to do. This is what he should have said. Where is he from? He's from the UK. He's got one of those like unique accents. It's not like Cockney or one of those accents that everyone can do a Cockney accent. It's like that Alan Moore. He has like this really. I was talking to a friend. I was like, "What is that accent?" And it's from some like industrial town which doesn't have a lot of famous people from it. So like nobody's ever heard that accent before. This is what Warren Ellis should have said to all of these cunts. He should say, I'd say fuck you, but I already did. Boom. That's it. That's all you say. Because there was nothing ever about social justice. There was nothing good. It was a shakedown. You had Me Too in 2017. I would say all of the real allegations had gotten out by about 2018. So everything after 2019 was just shakedowns. And this was very clearly a shakedown. Very, very few people stood by him in any way. And he was essentially destroyed. He tried to make a comeback like a year later. And then, what is that weasel who runs Image? Is it Eric Stevenson? He buckled. He's like, I'm just so sorry he didn't do the work. There is no work to do. The work is they torture you for the rest of your life while extorting money out of you and expecting you to use your connections, even though they've destroyed your reputation, to get them work, because they could never get it on merit. About our community accountability process. The fuck? You're not any kind of authority. You're a loose conglomeration of aging groupies. What the fuck? About our community accountability process. After Warren Ellis made contact with us in June 2021, SMOU-TJ, oh my god, they gave themselves an acronym. So it's so many of us dash transformative justice. It reminds me of when like they've done like the fourth iteration of Ghost in the Shell, and they call it, they have like a subtitle to it so you can differentiate it from the Ghost in the Shell, SMOU-TJ, or Law and Order, that show. What the fuck? These fucking clowns. So Warren made contact with them in 2021, approached community accountability with a sense of unity and being on the same side with him to work on goals of accountability, healing, and effecting wide-reaching positive change. We found an experienced facilitator. Well, wait, above you said he never did anything, and now you're basically saying he tried. All of our exchanges with Ellis happened through this facilitator. The process is necessarily slow in order to offer all parties time for emotional regulation in communication. In communicating. We spent months carefully drafting emails. Oh my god. What is that British comedian? God, I'm blanking. He's on that vampire show. He's always doing that thing with Clem Fandango, where they're like, would you play someone gay? He says, I'll play gay. I won't play bald, except for even on Radio 4. I don't even get that reference, but it was still funny. Like, you just need a caustic comedian like that to just line them all up. And he's just walking down the road. He's like, cunt, 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 cunt. Just call them all cunts to their face. Like, what the fuck is this? SMOU-TJ. So they spent months carefully drafting emails to present our goals and to ascertain his, which means they were arguing amongst themselves and trying to draw out the torture as long as possible. Okay, wow. You know how when people say something awful and like in stories they get hit by lightning? Like, I hesitate because I feel like I want whoever sends that lightning to know that I'm reading their words and it's not me saying this. So, as a good faith gesture, good faith? You destroyed his whole life, his career, his reputation because you're salty that he got a Netflix deal 20 years after you sucked him off. That's it. That's it. That's the entire thing. They had sex with a guy who looks like a boiled potato because they thought it was going to lead to something, and it didn't. And he continued to be successful, and they continued to be dumb cunts. And so all of a sudden, oh, me too. Oh, let's see what we can do. Transformative justice. Okay, so got a little distracted there. As a good faith gesture, we agreed to Ellis's request to publish an update reiterating our position that he and those he works with should not be harassed or canceled. Yeah. You destroyed his whole life, but you wanted to clarify that you didn't want him canceled. While we made clear in that update that only tentative contact had been established, it was perceived by many that accountability work had begun. It just goes on fucking forever. No, I can read the rest of it. I thought this was more of it, but these are the previous updates. With the guidance of our facilitator, who I'm sure was sending their bill to Warren, we asked Ellis to take the steps necessary for community accountability work to begin. So talking to these extortionists, dealing with the facilitator, that wasn't even the beginning. Things hadn't begun yet. That was like the pre-workout. During the process, as far as was communicated with us, Warren Ellis did not take these steps, despite numerous discussions and hours of writing. Working with Ellis remained contentious. He and our group were unable to achieve community together. You know, I've often heard from people in the gallows that they feel emotionally disconnected from the mob who put them there, as well as the hangman. It's so strange. Why can't they just foster a sense of community? Okay. Our facilitator concluded that a community accountability process with Warren Ellis is impossible under current conditions, and we agreed. In October of 2022, in a conversation with Ellis, which was conveyed to us, with Ellis's consent and approval, our facilitator discussed this conclusion and our group's intention to move on from working with him. Oh my God. What we feel good about. While it is undeniably disappointing that after nearly 3 years of our... Oh my God. Wow. These bitches actually wrote this shit. While it is undeniably disappointing that after nearly 3 years of our conscientious labor, that's how they describe what they did to Warren. Warren Ellis did not take the opportunity we offered. There is a lot to celebrate here. We have raised industry and public awareness of coercive control. Oh, we are very aware of coercive control. It's not coming from Warren Ellis, despite his powers of hypnotism. It's from you cunts, and it's from Alex DeCampi, and it's from Tess Fowler and Ramon Villalobos. As I've said for years, you're the bad guys. You're the villains. We have raised industry and public awareness of coercive control, particularly in situations of power imbalances. We are reasonably confident that we have stopped Warren Ellis from continuing his harmful patterns on a large scale. Our website and process are now used as blueprints for other groups coming forward. Many of us were able to begin our own healing process as a direct result of compiling and discussing our experiences and of other intensive work we did amongst ourselves. These achievements represent progress for all three of our original intentions. What now? We hope Warren Ellis will directly acknowledge the harm he inflicted. We continue to hope that Ellis will use the privilege of his high visibility position to effect sweeping positive change by working with creators and the companies that employ them to foster a safer industry. We also hope that this website continues to help identify and stop them. So, I don't think I need to comment on this. This is what evil looks like in the 21st century. Wow. Unconscionable. Absolutely unconscionable. So Greg talked about not working with people who do things like this, or people who bullied Ed Piskor to death, and set up situations where he knew he would never see peace. That unlike this freaking nutless wonder right here, Liam McGuire, there was no path to redemption. There never is. It's like when they tell you to apologize. Just apologize. They used the apology as an admission of guilt. They wanted him to kill himself, and then they were going to use the suicide as proof that he was guilty. Oh, he was just overcome with guilt because he was so damn guilty. But he flipped the script on him. He said, my death is a murder. And here's the name of the murderers. And they are pissed. They are pissed. So you might say, like, okay, you don't want to work with them. Well, how do you practically do that? And what you do is you use this word, which is bigoteering. Apparently some blogger made this up fairly recently. I've heard it used here and there, but it doesn't seem like it's really ever caught hold. Bigoteering is the act of labeling a person racist, sexist, or something like it-ist in situations where these are not warranted, in an attempt to exploit the stigmas accompanying such labels, and force the opponent to spend time and energy explaining why he or she is not a bigot. One of the things I really like about this site is it gives different definitions, not like in the way that the dictionary does, but it's like different takes, like different angles on it. So this one describes bigoteering as championing unfound smear campaigns accusing the target of bigotry. This one describes it as someone who seeks profit or to elevate themselves by accusing people of being bigoted. So that's the one I would probably consider the best one. So now obviously really bad stuff happens, and nobody is saying like you can't call it out or say that's fucked up. But we all know the people who get up every single day. We know their names. It's not infinity minus one, it's a couple dozen people, and they get up every single day to bigoteer. So if you are a professional, you don't want to get down into the weeds, you don't want to choose a side in a culture war. If you get offered a job and it's like, oh, you're working with so-and-so, and it's like, I don't like to work with bigoteers. Do you think anyone's going to be like, oh, no, Ramon Villalobos isn't a bigoteer? Clearly is. Like, everyone's just going to be like, yeah, okay, yeah. And just move on. You're not choosing a side. You're just saying, I don't want to work with people who get up every day to call other people some sort of bigot. Because those are not all accurate. In fact, most of them aren't. One of the weirdest ones, and I'll cover this in one of the other videos, is that Alex DeCampi went through this huge push in between Ed's death and his funeral to label him a sexist, a racist, and a queerphobe based on nothing. Daryl Ayo did the same thing. It's like, he just named me because he hates black people. This dude hates black people. He clearly worships them. Because it's so strange. It's like, wait a minute. Wasn't your accusation against him that he was a pedophile? If someone's a pedophile, that's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and 70th thing you say about them. It's like talking about John Wayne Gacy and saying that he was a really bad painter. Any normal person always mentions the most serious accusation. Then you get to the less serious ones. They apparently are like, well, we can't really prove this one, so let's just lob every single accusation while his body is embalmed and his mom goes and shops for the last suit he will ever wear. So I'm glad I've waited a few more days after the funeral till I am more calm. As always, don't contact any of the villains in this story. But this was predicted for years. So in the future, and it's not just the people, what do you call it, listed in his suicide note. It's people like Tamara Bonvillain, a colorist on apparently like every fourth Marvel book. It's that letterer, what's his name? Taylor Esposito, something like that. He's also a bigoteer. And these people wanted to get in the mix. The whole thing about cancel culture, which is now cancel killing, is they always like to kind of pretend like, oh, hey, I'm just a regular person, and I just accidentally just stumbled upon your tweet from 2010. Like, what's up with that? But everyone knows now they're psychos who just search for this stuff. But anyway, if you want to affect real change and you want to know how to practically, in practical ways, do what Greg has vowed to do, is you just explain to an editor or a co-creator on a team, it's like, I don't want to work with bigoteers. And if they don't know what that is, just send them this Urban Dictionary link, because anyone is going to look at this and be like, okay, I get that. I know exactly who you're talking about. Anyway, before I go, by the way, these videos are not monetized, so I think I mentioned at the beginning, but that was an accident. This isn't promotional. So these videos on Ed Piskor are not monetized. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.